And now back to the HaneyBiz Project with investorpreneur Mark Haney.
Welcome back to the HaneyBiz Project, brought to you by Sun System Technology. I'm Mark Haney, and I am here with my good friends, Rick and Rita Cobb. They are Riverside's finest. How are you guys doing today? Good. Now, I appreciate you coming down. You're in town. We're hanging out for the Chris Stapleton concert and for Tom Petty. And you guys have agreed to come in and talk to us a little bit. Right now in Sacramento, we've recently gone through an officer-involved shooting. And you guys as detectives, right? Rick, you're a detective that focuses on the homicide stuff. And Rita, you are sex crimes detectives. So, I mean, I want to get an overview of what law enforcement is like for you, but also being empathetic to what's going on right now in Sacramento.
Well, it's basically it's a life. I mean, even though it's a cliche, law enforcement is our life, especially since we're married. For coming on 25 years now. So everything about our life revolves around law enforcement, whether it be our friends or activities. Yeah. So it is. It's just it's a lifestyle.
Rita, how about you? You are the sex crimes detective of the family, and yes. So you guys you met each other on the job?
We did. We met in the police academy. Rick was in the academy ahead of me.
Okay.
And then once we got out of training, we were beat partners.
Okay, and then so you guys both were interested in law enforcement. It was something that was calling your name. And talk to us about the ascent of your career, because you're now detectives, but you didn't start there.
No, we started in patrol. Every police officer usually starts out in the field, and then you do various jobs. For myself, I was a field training officer. I was a relief observer in our helicopter unit, and then I worked on a specialized team. And then from there, I went to an inside job and got promoted and became a detective. So 19 years ago.
And how did you get recognized to be promoted to the sex crimes unit?
Well, I know, right? I was a brand new detective, and generally, I mean, we're talking back in the late 1990s. So 1999, and new detectives generally went to burglary.
Okay.
But I had this lieutenant who really believed in me and put me in the sex crimes unit. And I remember going to him and telling him, like, hey, I'm new. I should be going to burglary. And he had told me, no, you're going to either sink or swim, and you're not going to sink. And so he threw me in, and that really is the way I look at it. I got thrown into the wolves because I hadn't had any investigative experience, and I had to learn right away. I mean, like one of my first cases, the first week I was a brand new detective, was a 16-year-old girl that gave birth at home and then dumped her baby over a wall, and a neighbor found it. Oh, my gosh. So, I mean, it's kind of like that. Like, what do you do? Where do you start with that? And so,
wow, the difficult things that you must see. And, you know, this is on the radio. We're not even on Facebook Live today. It will be on YouTube, but now, Rick and Rita are attractive 50-year-old people that, kind of that are in great shape. And Rick is, he's the homicide man of the family, right? So Rita described a little bit of her role at Riverside. But, Rick, tell us a little bit about what's homicide and how did you get there?
Well, started the same as Rita. Started out in patrol, and I worked my way. I was a SWAT team member for quite a while, and then we got promoted just within a month of a week of each other. And I did start the burglary route, but I kind of worked my way up, and I wanted to. I went to the domestic violence unit. I worked in the sex crimes unit for a couple of years also, and it's a good stepping stone. I really learned how to interview people and kind of get to that stepping stone where you get to homicide. And then a spot opened up, and the lieutenant really wanted me to put in for it, and I jumped at the chance. And that was 17 years ago. And
when either of you lock on to a case, I know these cases don't last a day or a week necessarily. Sometimes they last for weeks and months or maybe even longer. So you really have to be an investigator, right? These things last forever.
Right. It's not like on TV at all. I mean, we get a homicide and we could run 3 days straight without any sleep. I mean, you could just start from start to finish, and then eventually you have to kind of take a break. But yeah, these cases can go on forever. I mean, I still got open cases, but even when you're hot on the trail, so to speak, those cases will take you a month, a couple months.
Yeah, and I'm picturing what's happening right now in in the families of the victims of these law enforcement officers that were recently shot here in Sacramento. One with the Sac sheriff he's passed away,
Right.
and two at the California Highway Patrol are wounded. And I'm just thinking, you guys go into danger as part of your daily life, and and you guys have seen some tragedy, and just thinking what goes through the mind when you hear of a fellow law enforcement officer that has been taken down like that.
Well, no matter where it happens, it goes to heart when you hear something like that, because, as you said, we have had tragedy at our department in Riverside. We've lost quite a few officers in the last 10 years. So, and Rita and I have actually investigated the cases where these officers were killed, and you see from the family's perspective. You meet with the families, and not just the immediate family, but the law enforcement family, and it's just a horrible thing. I mean, I think you can equate it similar to maybe like the military. When a fellow Marine or soldier gets killed, everybody feels it.
You bet.
And that's how it is in law enforcement.
And, Rita, being both police officers, being both detectives in Riverside, it makes me still wonder what it's like to be the spouse of somebody who's in danger. Rick must feel that when you are out on a dangerous mission. And I know you've got to feel that when Rick is doing one of his investigations, when you know that he's putting his life on the line.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a different situation because both of us are in the field, where I think it would be different if I was not in law enforcement. I think I might be more fearful for him. But I do really trust his instincts and his tactics, and I believe that Rick is really safe. And so, I mean, if it's his time, I mean, I truly believe that if it's your time, there's nothing you can do about it. But for the times where Rick has been out at SWAT or things like that, I mean, there have been times where I was anxious, I would say, and I was waiting for that text or the call or the page, depending on the year, to know that he was okay.
Yes.
But I would say for the most part, I really believe that he's really divinely guided, and that he, the times that he goes out there, that he's going to be safe.
Well, there was a time, we were just talking about this, right after you had Kelly, that Rick got himself into a scuffle in front of the hospital. Rick, what happened with that fight?
There were two guys outside the hospital.
You were on duty.
I was on duty.
Okay.
This was back when I was a patrol officer.
Okay.
And two guys basically wanted to get into the hospital, and they weren't allowed to. And I showed up, and immediately one of them just attacked me. So him and I were kind of fighting, and then his buddy jumped in. And at that point, he got the better of me. He got me on top, put me in a bear hug, and slammed me right to the ground. So I'm on my back. He's on the top. And then I'm expecting a fight, a real man fight. He starts biting me. I mean, he bit my eyebrow off.
Oh my gosh!
And he's headbutting me and biting me, and I thought,
and you're not able to pull out your gun and shoot him.
No, the way my hands were pinned, I couldn't get to my gun. I had a backup gun I was trying to get to. So at the time, the only thing I could think of was use my thumb, and I put my thumb right through his eyeball.
Oh,
and,
okay.
That
that slowed him down a little bit. It sounds
worked quite a bit. It worked real well, and he finally got off of me. And then, thank goodness, a security guard came up, and it was actually able to help him, because at this point I was covered in blood from my forehead. Running my whole face was covered in blood. I couldn't see. So it was a real hairy situation. I'm really glad I was able to do that, and then really glad that security showed up when they did.
You bet. Well, what might seem like a simple day at the office. I'm out in front of the hospital helping keep the parking lot or the emergency area safe and calm, and you get attacked. And, I think about the way us civilians feel toward law enforcement. I mean, we really appreciate what you do, but in today's society, you must be feeling that there's obviously a portion of today's society, I call them the crazies, that really aren't showing so much respect today. How does that affect you guys?
Want me to answer? Okay. Good. Well, I think we deal with 10% of the population 90% of the time. Mm-hmm. So you have that group of individuals who, no matter what, are never going to like you, right? They're never going to be, they call you all the time, but they're not going to be the ones that actually like you and appreciate you. But 90% of the population, maybe it's less than that at the moment, does appreciate you, and they only call law enforcement for really serious things. So I think how we look at it is that you can't judge the majority of the population by those that are the loudest at the moment, because really it's those other individuals that you get phone calls or you get cards in the mail. Mm-hmm. Sometimes.
I tell you more and more right now in the last few years with all the, if you want to call it hatred towards the police or the disrespect towards the police, we get a lot more people thanking us. They'll buy us a coffee at Starbucks, or if I'm sitting at lunch, they'll buy a lunch, or just even we get so much more of the thank you for your service. And usually you only hear that for military, which it should be, but we're getting a lot more of that. So we know, just like Rita said, we only hear about the minority of people who feel that way towards us, not the majority of the people.
And both of you two are approaching the retirement age. You're not retired yet, but you're on the back nine, so to speak. Just as you look back at your success and the career that you had, if you could describe that in one word, Rick, how would you describe your 25-plus years in law enforcement?
Wow, one word.
I know.
2 words. You go 2.
I just interesting. I mean,
okay.
I guess if I had to say one word, but of course you expand that out. But we've seen it. I don't want to say seen it all, but you've seen almost all you can, and the highs, the lows. We've been through everything, and it's been an interesting ride.
Never a dull moment.
No.
Okay, Rita,
I know.
it's your turn, girl.
I was going to say awesome.
Why
because
awesome?
I think that it has been an awesome career. I'm a girl in a man's world, so to speak, and a smaller one, which is interesting, right? So I have to be smarter than the bad guy.
Yes.
So I learned early on that I wasn't going to kick anybody's butt. I was going to have to shoot
physically,
him, right? But I was going to put a good fight up. I was going to do my best. I'm going to, do what I can to save myself and anybody else. But that I had to have the gift of gab. I better learn how to talk my way into putting handcuffs on people, and that it's been a great career for me. I've loved it.
Oh, no doubt.
Rick and Rita Cobb, Riverside's finest, thank you for sharing your story with us here in Sacramento as we deal with this very difficult time in our community with the recent shootings. And anyway, thank you. It is always interesting to talk to you guys. Never a dull moment, Rick, and always awesome, Rita, for privileged to be your friend. And I really feel privileged that you're sharing your story right here in Sacramento.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Next week on the show, we have Eric Levy coming on. He's the founder and CEO of Luxor One. We do a little sponsor appreciation, Marcus. Who should we be saying thank you today?
Yeah, absolutely. Wanted to give a shout out to Kim Silvers at Silvers HR. Has responsibility for all your HR needs.
Yeah, Kim Silvers is awesome. When we return, we're going to have our takeaways and our closing thoughts about tragedy in America and everything that we're facing right now in Sacramento. Join the revolution at HaneyBiz.com, courtesy of Ethan Conrad Properties and the financial advisors, Stifel Financial. This is the HaneyBiz Project.